Only science can save them. R2-D2, C-3PO, and the scientific droid 4BX are on a crash course toward adventure. Along with a rebel kid named Stuart Zissou, the three droids are trapped in Escape Pod 4 with no easy way out. Asteroids stand in their way. The pod is out of control. R2, 3PO, 4B, and Stuart must fly hard and think fast. Or else.
Recording.
Me too. Alright, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, younglings, and welcome to Padawan Library, the galaxy's only Star Wars junior novel podcast. Here, 100 miles away from my co-host, Tim May, is me, Levi Paratic. We had originally talked about doing these episodes in some episodes in person, but that is not working out.
It's fine. It is what it is. I live in...
Science is working against us here, which is a great theme of this week's episode.
It'd be nice if... anyway, it'd be nice if somebody would let science work for us. Anyway, moving on... I'm tired. Despite doing nothing, I'm tired. Anyway, so I live in Erie County in Pennsylvania. It's one of the counties that we have a stay-at-home order. Not quite a lockdown, but basically, like, you're not supposed to leave unless you have to, like, run, like, get groceries and that kind of stuff. So, you're allowed to take a walk and stuff, but, like, you're not supposed to, like, be doing too much visiting and stuff.
I know, like, a lot of employers are, like, sending notes to their employees that say, like, I have a job, I should be out, I'm an essential worker kind of thing. So I know that's what's going on here, but we're not on total lockdown. I saw people today, a barbecue restaurant is, like, being built in town, but they can't open because who wants to go to a restaurant? So they had a food truck outside, and there were people lined up, like, to the road trying to get barbecue.
They better have been standing apart, 6 feet apart.
They weren't.
Of course they weren't.
Of course they weren't. I was just like, you...
But, guys, guess what? It's going to be fine. It'll be fine by Easter Sunday. Easter Sunday, guys. It'll be beautiful. It'll be fine.
He's coming back, and he's taking the coronavirus with him. So.
Good fucking Christ! Whatever. Anyway, I don't want to talk about listen, I listen to lots of podcasts, and, like, all of them have been consumed by coronavirus talk, and, like, so let's be nice to our listeners. They might want to just chill for an hour.
Yeah,
let's just chill. Listen, we always record this way, so nothing has changed about our process.
Exactly.
So it's fine. And this would have been fun to do in person because there's some... this is, by the way, the Science Adventures. We're finally doing that. We've been teasing it the entire run of the podcast. Mm-hmm. And there's some experiments that would have been fun to do in person together. But, oh well. Maybe both of us can make some video content and maybe we'll cut it together or something.
There we go. There we go.
I'm not promising that. But it might happen.
It may happen. Probably not.
It's an idea.
let's talk about some good news.
Oh yeah, this is cool news.
The big Star Wars news this week is that the fact that Rosario Dawson has been cast as a live-action Ahsoka Tano in Mandalorian season 2, which I'm sure everybody already knows that.
That was like almost so that news came out like the day after we recorded.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
so last week, but that's very exciting. I love Rosario Dawson. I feel like, and I'm looking forward to her in this, but I feel like she hasn't had the most interesting last decade or so of her career.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want her.
Yes.
I want better things for her. I think she's a great actress, but also like whatever. She's cool. I like Rosario. And
things have been quiet for her. I kind of maybe if it's Clerks 2 that kind of quieted her career.
I don't think it's that. Actually, she got a lot of good press for that movie. I don't know. Like, I know that movie probably, like, I don't know if it holds up. I haven't seen it in years, but like, I feel like she got good press for that movie. I don't remember.
Yeah, she was great in the movie.
Yeah. So I don't think that hurt her career really, but I don't think her career has been hurt. She's the star of a TV show that's on right now on like USA or something. I haven't watched it, but she's a great actress, and she also like has other interests and stuff, like activism, that kind of thing. So, but she's a perfect casting for Ahsoka, for adult Ahsoka, grown Ahsoka, very grown Ahsoka. Kill me. Sorry.
I'm expecting we're only going to see her in maybe one episode.
Probably one episode, but maybe they're trying to test the waters, maybe do an Ahsoka live-action series. That's my thinking, maybe. But,
it'll be interesting to see her react with the child, or Baby Yoda, as everybody likes to call him, or her. We don't know yet, do we?
Yeah, we don't. I prefer the child, personally, just because it's not Yoda. Like, right. So, like, Baby Yoda, we got to reserve the ability of, like, something to have actual Baby Yoda in it, I feel like.
The High Republic. The prequel to the High Republic.
I think he'd be a grown man in High Republic time, but, although maybe, I don't know, their aging is now we don't know, because 50 years old, you're still a baby.
Well, yeah, kind of. See, I kind of figured, like, 100 years is our 10 years. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I think the child is like the equivalent of like a 3 or 4 year old.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Like, he can't talk, but like he still is like
pretty. I mean, like he knows what's going on, very aware.
Yeah, he's attentive. Yeah, extremely aware.
Yeah, so
he has comprehension. So of what's going on around him. So
what a delight.
And that makes
I know people talked about it for months, but like. What was just a gift to the world that was.
I know. He stomped down the door of pulp culture and like completely cemented himself forever now. He completely just like trampled all over Rise of Skywalker too, which is fantastic.
Like thank you for just not having to think about Rise of Skywalker any longer.
I know.
No shots at our listener, Brendan, from last week. The biggest fan of Rise of Skywalker ever.
He should have ranked Mandalorian on that list, too. Like, I feel like if you're going to do a movie list, you should rank Mandalorian as, like, one thing. Or, like, by season.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's a TV show. It actually feels more like a TV show than a lot of TV shows do these days. It's like it's pretty episodic. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, there were you mentioned before we started recording there was some other Mandalorian news that I may not have heard.
Okay, well, Bill Burr's coming back.
I heard about that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, he was a fun character with his like robot pistol on his back.
I enjoyed him. He was very fun.
And I may butcher this guy's last name, but did you hear that Michael Biehn has been cast?
Michael Biehn. Yes, I heard about this from Terminator and Aliens.
Yeah, and Aliens. Yeah. He's going to be apparently another bounty hunter, so that's going to be like a lot of fun. So
I love Michael Biehn.
And have you heard
Kyle
the
Reese
directing
himself.
room? Yeah, have you heard the directing rumors?
No, I have not.
Okay, you'll like these. So apparently Favreau himself is going to direct some episodes
he has time
this season.
now, I guess.
Yeah, makes sense. And Dave, of course, is coming back to do some episodes. But these are two rumored ones. Grief Karga himself, Carl Weathers, is apparently directing an episode.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Very interesting.
Mando!
He's so good. do the magic hand, baby. Do the magic hand again.
I love that scene where he's just shouting at him. Like, so funny. Oh my god.
And then this is a big rumor, and you're going to love this one. Robert Rodriguez is apparently tapped to do an episode. Yeah.
Alita Kane. Listen, let's just... You want to do a sidebar on Rodriguez quick?
Yeah,
just on his career? It's fun. All right, listen.
Yeah, because I feel like I had him completely written off, and then he surprised me so hard with Alita that I was just like, oh, he's back.
So, yeah, like, Robert Rodriguez, very important to people our age and maybe a little bit older, I think, as a filmmaker. Like, just, he, like, the El Mariachi story is just, like, a classic, like...
Yeah, like, anybody can make movies, like, kind of
and
thing.
And the book,
like,
if you haven't read his book about that, Rebel Without a Crew, it's, like, it's the best. It's so fun. And, like, I just had a lot of fondness for him when I was younger, and, like, I like a lot of his movies, like, he didn't really start embarrassing himself until after Grindhouse, I think.
Yeah. Well, Grindhouse is kind of like that point where he just... The turning point,
because he makes, like, Tarantino in that movie makes a real movie, whatever you think of it, like, he's like, I'm gonna make my next movie, it'll be this. Like, I know some people don't like that movie, I like that movie. Death Proof. And then Rodriguez is like, I'm making a parody. That's all I'm, like, you know what I mean? Like, which what was frustrating about Planet Terror for me is that he'd already made that kind of movie, but a real one with From Dusk Till Dawn. Like, that's, like, a really good movie. I mean, and, like, a good, like, exploitation movie. And, like, Planet Terror is just, like, feels, like, fake. And then that's just the entire direction his career went with the Machete movies and, like...
Which he didn't even direct, like, the Machete movies.
He directed the first one. The second one he co-directed with his protege, which means he probably handed it off for the most part.
And then Predators he produced.
Yeah, that was a production job. I mean, and then he also did a couple more of those kids' movies. Shorts.
Spy Kids. Shorts, yeah. Which came out the same day as... did that come out the same day as Inglourious Basterds?
Yes, I think it did, which is so funny. Yeah, like, forever intertwined with each other.
And The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Yeah, that was the same year as Sin City.
Oh,
those came out within 2 months of each other. Do you remember that? Because Sin City came out in April, and then Shark Boy and Lava Girl came out in June or something. And, like, I remember seeing the Shark Boy and Lava Girl trailer and just laughing to myself, like, it should say, from the director of Sin City or whatever. It would be so funny. But, like...
Did you ever see Sin City 2?
No, I never saw that.
Oh, it's not
I've heard
good.
It's very bad. I rewatched a clip from the first Sin City recently, because, like, a podcast I listened to, like, did, like, a revisit of the movie, and I just was like, I bet I would just hate this movie now, so I don't feel like watching it. I watched the clip, I was like, better than I thought it would be.
I rewatched it a couple years ago. It held up better than I thought it would, too. I had, like, no expectations for it.
Because I loved it at the time, but I was all...
Yeah, I watched it because of the sequel, but the sequel was...
Sure. I'm, like... The thing with Sin City is, like, I'm a big Frank Miller fan. He went off the rails a lot in the last couple decades.
The Spirit, ever hear it?
Both creatively and just, like, he became quite an addled man. Although he seems to be getting it together, which is nice. Neil Adams, the great Batman comics artist, predates Frank Miller, but he's, like, his mentor. He literally told him, he called him and said, I'm just calling to say goodbye because you're going to die soon. Because he was such an alcoholic. That's, like, in a Frank Miller profile from last year. I was blown away by that. Like,
wow.
So apparently he's sober and he seems to be doing better, and, like, he apologized for a bunch of dumb shit he said about, like, Occupy Wall Street or something. I don't remember. This back in, like, 2011. Like, he's so yeah. He was just like, I wasn't thinking clearly when I said those things. So I was like, okay, man, I'm happy that you acknowledge that. I don't know if he's...
Gotta bring Bright Bridges back.
Yeah, I mean, he's a genius.
Bridges.
Here's the thing about Frank Miller. He's a genius, okay? And I know that's not a popular thing to say anymore, because he has burned a lot of bridges with a lot of audiences and his fans. But, like, his 80s work is unfuckwithable. You can't talk shit. It's all great. Dark Knight Returns, Year One, Ronin, his Daredevil shit, Born Again especially. And then the 90s stuff is all very interesting. He's playing around. Sin City being the main thing. And Sin City, like, as a comic book, is transcendent. Because as a stylistic exercise, as a comic book, it is just, like, very exciting. And even when the stories are kind of nonsense, they're, like, it's just fun to read. Because, like, you're just looking at... And I thought, like, the visual style of the movie that was so exciting at the time that it was recreating the style from the comics would not hold up. But I watched a clip and I was like, this looks better than I expected it to look. That was my main concern. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, that was my problem with Sin City 2 was, like, it didn't look good. Like, the depth of field seemed way more shallow than Sin City 1 did. Like, it looked way cheaper.
Which is interesting because the first movie is technically co-directed by Frank Miller. And the second one is just Rodriguez, so you'd think that the depth and stuff would be more of a, like...
Right?
Like, he'd be... But he also was in the prime of his lazy phase as a filmmaker. That's the thing with Rodriguez. When he comes back with Alita Battle Angel with something that ambitious, I mean, obviously he has the backing of James Cameron and all that, but, like...
Right.
But, like, when he comes back with something that, like... crazy and ambitious that has so much of him in it, like, it does feel like a James Cameron movie, but it also feels like a Robert Rodriguez movie. Like, I was just very excited to see him really, like, try with something that on that scale. So I'm excited to see. I think he's perfect for Mandalorian too.
Oh,
like,
I agree.
I
agree. Yeah. Especially with all the technological achievements they've made with that show too, like all the they're like not rear projection. I don't know what the heck.
Yeah, but like it's like a HD screens or whatever for the set.
Yeah,
that is so cool. By the way,
I know
that's the first like
it speeds things up so much. Everything's all in camera, and it looks great.
Yeah.
Like you don't know otherwise.
I know, like it's the first like new like special effects technology to come around in a while that like is really like fun and exciting the way that special effects used to be for me when I was a kid. So like I was very excited when I read about that.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That's like they already shot that, right? They finished shooting.
Yeah,
so that will be out probably on schedule.
Yes, fall 2020. So that will be out on time.
Yeah, because if they hadn't finished shooting, it would probably have gotten pushed, I would guess.
Yes, like the finale of Superstore, apparently.
Oh, Superstore's a good show. You ever watch that?
Well, I haven't, but I heard what is her name? America
Ferrera. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she's leaving the show, but they never shot her leaving the show. They never got her finale finished. So that's
That's a bummer. They have to. She has to just come back and do that, right? Like,
yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, you can't just write her out of the show. Come on. Especially, I feel like NBC's going to take some flack. Did you hear about the Steve Carell thing in The Office news that came out today?
No.
Or yesterday?
What happened?
Well, there's an oral history coming out, like a book about the oral history of The Office, and basically what a couple people said is that like Steve Carell's like contract was up, and he like didn't necessarily like want to leave the show, and he figured like, hey, somebody will like maybe they'll come and say, hey, stay, Steve, and like apparently just nobody ever talked to him, so he's like, well, I guess they don't want me, so I guess I'm leaving. So
wow. I mean, I don't know if I really believe that, but
we'll see.
I mean, I'm not like whatever. Like I don't think that's. I was expecting some sort of scandalous thing. Like, but it's just yeah. Oh, I might read that. Like, I don't know. The Office. It's weird how like present it is. Like how much people talk about it endlessly and watch it over and over again. To me, you've
mentioned this before in the show, and one of the things that you brought up was like I don't see how people like The Office more than 30 Rock, and I put some thought into that. And I think it's the love story. I think it's the love story between Jim and Pam that keeps that show timeless.
I love it.
I think that's what it
is.
Listen,
30 Rock is not timeless. I'll, like 30 Rock is very. I was watching some 30 Rock a few days ago. You know, nothing else to do, so I was just watching, and that show is so funny to me, but I'm like, maybe you do have to be like almost exactly our age to like really, you know, like I'm not sure
to get every reference that
like,
it's trying to make.
It is like it transports me exactly like to that era, like the second Bush term. I mean, just like Jesus Christ, it's so good. But I love The Office too. I'm also not as compulsive. I don't rewatch TV shows as compulsively as a lot of people seem to. So maybe that's all it is. Like,
it's The Office and Friends that seems to be like compulsively.
Well, Friends
watched.
is just bad, so that's the problem with that.
I agree.
Friends is just not a good show. That's the difference there. The Office is at least a very good show.
Mm-hmm.
But I know they finished shooting that Space Force show that Greg Daniels created for Netflix.
Oh, they did?
So that should be out. That might be out this summer. I don't know, but that's got Steve Carell and John Malkovich, and like,
oh wow,
it's got like a pretty crazy cast. Very fun. That sounds fun. I mean, listen, you know, it is what it is.
That'll be a fun combo, the two of them.
Yeah, and it doesn't take place in space. It's about the people that are charged with like designing Space Force. So it's like an office setting, like a workplace comedy, but. Yeah. Oh,
speaking of like, I don't know what just made me think of this. Have you heard that there's, I want to say it's a movie about like Nicolas Cage where he's like playing himself.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
And like they're going to recreate scenes from like movies that like he was making. And I wonder if they will do like a scene for an adaptation where they where they are doing a scene where they are making being John Malkovich. That would be incredible.
Oh my God, 5 movies in a nesting doll thing. That would be great. I wish that movie was being like written by Charlie Kaufman or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like
that would
or directed by Spike at least. Spike Jonze. I say Spike, I always think Spike Lee.
Oh yeah,
so.
You got to clarify. Come on.
Yeah. And this Spike, one word Spike always gets to be Spike Lee. So by the
both
way,
great Spikes. Every Spike I know is great. So Spike from Buffy. Come on.
Yeah, of course. We did give him enough love last week. I feel like
no, we didn't. We really didn't.
Love Spike.
Spike's great.
I love Spike. I actually have a funny story about Spike. You know this story, but
yes, I do know this story. You should definitely tell the story.
Me and my brother and our friends Chris and I think it might have been Vicky at the time. This was a long time ago. We went to see the midnight. This was when they still did midnight shows, not like the
7 o'clock show.
So we went to the midnight show of Dragon Ball Evolution, the live action Dragon Ball movie from like 2009, I think it was. This was my senior year of high school. But anyway, so we went. We were the only people there for a bit, and then one guy shows up. And he sits by himself, and he strikes up a conversation with us. It was fine. It wasn't weird or anything. But here's what was weird. We were just start talking, and we're like, "Oh yeah, we love Dragon Ball. This is definitely going to be terrible." But you know, and he was just like, I've never watched any Dragon Ball, but I love James Marsters." And I was like, "You mean Spike from Buffy?" He's like, "Yeah, he's in this, and I like to support people I like."
I got a great James Marster story. It involves Brooke. I think I remember. Yeah, whenever they announced the Sonic the Hedgehog movie and that James Marsden was in it, I told Brooke.
Excuse me, Hollywood hunk James Marsden.
Yes,
I've been referring to him for the last year.
So when I told him James Marsden in the movie, he's like, "What the hell kind of casting is that? Spike from Buffy? He's not relevant at all." And I'm like, "No, that's James Marsters, not James Marsden."
Yes. What a delight. Oh my God. So much James Marsters content for you all. Yeah.
That's the love we didn't give him last week. So.
Yeah, listen, I love Spike. Spike's one of my favorite characters, and I think Spike's arc works very well. Me and my brother had a long Buffy conversation after he listened to last week's episode.
Okay, good.
It's like, I'm like, maybe I should dive back in and do a rewatch. I don't know. But anyway, we were talking and like about how one of the reasons season 6 is so hated by a lot of fans is because of some of the hashtag problematic elements of it in terms of Spike and Buffy, which I'm not denying that that's there. Like the way that ends is upsetting, and like I get it, but that's why I just find the character so compelling, because he's like so like he never actually truly became a good guy until he got his soul back. Right. So the like whereas but it's like always toys with the audience, making you think, oh, he's like a good guy now because he can't do anything. So I always liked that arc. I know, like, you know, the rape scene, and like then he immediately essentially redeems himself. Maybe is optically not great, but I like it. It is what it is, you know. That, and it's just great. It's great storytelling, if not great. Great gender politics, yeah.
And especially for it wasn't a WB show at the time, for a UPN show UPN. At that time. Yeah, that's some very bold.
Well, they were very deep in the run. They basically could do what they wanted to at that point.
Yeah.
So I mean, that show is one of the most adventurous shows ever to air on television, and I still think it's so good. Buffy's great. Yes. This is our weekly Buffy corner.
All right, I got one more thing for you,
okay.
And you're gonna love this. This is a comment from our YouTube, and it was on our Jedi Quest wrap up.
No.
And I'm gonna let me. No. Don't worry about it.
I get nervous when I hear YouTube comments.
All right, so this is from Rip Mamba 824.
Oh,
and this question it's a question.
Rip to Kobe.
Yeah. So this question is for Tim. Top 5 NBA players of all time.
Oh, yes! Yes! Okay, I do love
this. Our basketball corner.
All right, listen. Rip Mamba 824. I'm going to give you my top 10 because I want you to not be mad that Kobe's not on my list, because he is in my top 10, but not top 5. I'm sorry. Okay. Number 1 is Jordan. Easy number 1.
I have nothing to say to any of these.
I'm just so. Okay. I'll say what I feel like saying. Yeah. Number 2 is LeBron. I love LeBron. He's the player I have the most personal love for. The 2016 championship is just one of my favorite, like, pop culture, sports, whatever memories. Like, it was genuinely thrilling. And he's incredible. Like, he can do. At his best, he can do literally anything on a basketball court. He's like slightly past his prime, but he's still incredible. Love LeBron. Number 3, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, underrated by a lot of young people. Like at my school, like anytime I bring up Kareem, they're like, "Oh, he's overrated" or whatever. Like, get out of here. Kareem won 6 MVPs and won 6 championships. No one else has done that. Okay? And then Kareem also won his first finals MVP in 1971 and won his last finals MVP in 1985. That's 14 years separating 2 peaks. That's insane. Kareem is number 3. Number 4, Magic Johnson. I hope Magic Johnson's doing all right. I think AIDS probably makes him probably makes him very vulnerable. Stay home, Magic. One of the greatest point guards of all time. He's the best. And he's incredible. 5 championships, changed the league. Number 5, Tim Duncan. Yes! Tim Duncan from the Spurs, obviously, 19-year career, incredible career. 5 championships. 3 finals, or wait, is it only 2 finals MVPs? No, it's 3. 3 finals MVPs. Should have been 4. He should have won the one that Tony Parker won against LeBron in 2007. But whatever. Anyway, Tim Duncan, underrated. Not a fun player to watch in the same way, but fine. Number 6, Shaquille O'Neal. The most dominant player of all time, maybe. Just incredible. The 3 championships with the Lakers with my number 7, Kobe Bryant. No shots. Number 7, one of the 10 greatest players of all time. Kobe fans that get very defensive, and especially now, I get it. R.I.P. to Kobe. But, like, Kobe is incredible. Them together, that's, like, just one of the great... But I put Shaq a little ahead just because I think he's just... His, like, run from, like, especially, like, 2000 to, like, 2002 is insane. Like, look at the numbers. They're crazy. So then 7 is Kobe.
I got one thing to say about Kobe. I do have one thing here. Okay, do you know what Kobe's favorite movie is? Actually,
not off the top.
It's Star Wars.
Oh, well, he loves storytelling. He became... that sounded more... Like, yeah, he became, like, a... He wanted to be, like, a film producer and, like, a filmmaker after... I mean, he was getting into that after he retired. That's obviously just a huge bummer. Like, Kobe was never my favorite player, and I found him kind of annoying, frankly, when I was... So I'm not going to, like, pretend like I loved him. But
well, I'll tell you how I
it's
know
just a
this
super
fact.
sad thing. Yeah.
This fact is whenever there was news coverage of the trial, we won't get into that, but they were running like ticker tape facts on the bottom of the screen about Kobe during the entire time, and they just said Kobe Bryant's favorite movie is Star Wars. And I just remember reading
That's
that
weird that would be in that context.
I know, right?
Yeah, listen, whatever. There's a lot of complicated things about Kobe, but I did. It was very. I mean, just the suddenness of it and everything. It was very sad, and obviously just his daughter and all. It's awful. And he was a great basketball player, and seemed like he had, come like people seemed to like him a lot personally, more than I thought when he was alive, frankly. So he's great. I hope I didn't piss you off with that. You seem like a huge Kobe fan. No shots. But 7 is very high, and I get why people would rank him higher. But anyway, 8 is 8 Larry Bird. Great. Just 3 championships, 3 MVPs in a row. 3 MVPs in a row. That's wild. Incredible. Like, watch some of the highlights sometimes. His, like, 60-point game against the Hawks, I think, is just crazy. The Hawks bench starts cheering for him. Like, it's so crazy. And then and then 9 is Bill Russell, who's won the most championships, 11 championships in 13 seasons. That was in the 60s. Different league, but he needs to be in the top 10. And then number 10, Hakeem Olajuwon, one of the great centers of all time. And he's just underrated because I think a lot of people assume that Jordan would have won 8 in a row if he hadn't retired to play baseball. But I don't know. They were not great against that Houston team in the regular season. They never had to beat a team with a dominant center in the finals. So I think to take those away from Hakeem automatically is dubious. So there you go. There's my NBA corner. That's fun. And honorable mention, my favorite player of all time is Scottie Pippen. But he's not top 10. But he's my favorite player of all time. So there you go.
All right. And Tim's NBA corner has come to a close.
Thank you for that question.
Appreciate that question.
Thank you for that question.
All right, so that's good. We're at over 30 minutes. That's a perfect opening segment.
We don't have tons to talk about the book.
There's not a ton to talk about this book.
Glad we talked a little.
All right, so when we come back, Star Wars Science Adventures number 1 of 2, Emergency in Escape Pod 4.
Ooh. Welcome back to Padawan Library. I'm Tim May, here, as always, with Levi Paratic.
Hello.
Hey, so, this week, first of all, for our 50th episode, we didn't mention that.
Yeah,
Congratulations to us. It's really our 52nd episode because we did 2 bonuses. Mm-hmm. So, if you're a YouTube viewer, check out our podcast feed and you can find our Rise of Skywalker review and our celebration review from last year. That probably doesn't hold up very well.
No, it probably doesn't.
But the Rise of Skywalker review is good. If you don't like that movie, go ahead and check it out.
Yeah.
Anyway,
if you like it, maybe not. Just stay to YouTube.
But this week we are covering something we've been teasing the entire run of this podcast, which is Star Wars Science Adventures, which is a series I remember. I'll set this up. We can talk about the actual series in a minute, but I remember when I was a kid, I saw these books on at the store, and I scoffed at them. This is when I became who I am. Maybe. This might be the origin. I don't know. I scoffed at them. I was just like, Star Wars isn't science fiction. It's fantasy. Space opera. What are they doing? And when these books came out, I was still 7 years old when this book came out. So in February of 1999. So I was a little stinker. So, basically the premise of these books is they're adventure stories. It says real science, real adventure.
Real adventure.
And they're adventure stories starring C-3PO and R2-D2 and some other characters we'll get to in a minute. That essentially explains how certain things are happening scientifically.
Yes, in an Earth science kind of way,
yes,
not a Star Wars
Earthbound science, not geology.
Right. Well, I guess since this book here specifically takes place mostly in space, so I guess it does adhere to spatial physics. That's not a word, but it's still real world physics, not Star Wars.
Not what is obviously how physics work in the Star Wars universe, which is totally different.
Right.
But, so I always had this issue just with the concept of these books. I never read them, but I knew we were going to have to get to these eventually on our show. And one reason we had to get to them is that there's two writers on these. One of the co-writers is our beloved Jude Watson.
Yes.
And this is one of the first things she wrote. I don't know if I think she did the Leia Journal before this?
Yes, this is the second thing she wrote. So the Leia Journal came out July 1998. These books, both 1 and 2, came out on February 1st, 99. And then her Queen Amidala Journal came out, Jedi Apprentice, The Dark Rival, and the Queen Amidala Journal both came out on May 3rd, 99. So these are the second and third books she's written that are Star Wars related.
Yeah. So this series, I wonder if I haven't read the second book. You already have, so you're going to have to hold your tongue about spoilers.
Yes, I am, because I have some feelings on these books. So.
But it's a 2-book series. I cannot imagine it was intended to be a 2-book series.
It's not.
No.
I'll spoil now. It ends on a cliffhanger. The story is not resolved.
Get excited for next week, people. So anyway, the other co-writer, and we tried to find anything about this person, is K.D. Burkett.
Yes, and this is so difficult. You Google this person, the name K.D. Burkett only shows up on 2 things. Any sort of review for these books, or there's also K.D. Burkett Photography, an Iowa-based photographer who has not updated their website since 2009. Oh, hang on, I have here my notes. I found a second K.D. Burkett. Oh. Okay, and he is the middle school janitor at South Harding Middle School in Iowa. So both K.D. Burketts that I did find are both from Iowa.
That's a sad story.
Well, there's a photo of him. If you Google the name, you'll find him.
He's doing fine.
He's doing great. Yeah,
I just like you said. He has this photography page that he hasn't updated in 10 years. And now he's a school janitor. That sounds sad.
Yeah, well, I think they're 2 different people.
It could be related, I guess.
I can't confirm that. There was an email on the photography website. I did email them. I have had no response from that email. But there is a phone number. So next week, live on the show, we will call the phone number and see if we get anybody, and which we will ask them if this is the correct K.D. Burkett. And if it is, then we'll have an impromptu interview if they want to, which will be great. It'll be interesting.
Great radio.
Yes. And then
should we just
also
start calling this a radio show?
Yeah, let's do that. Podcast. Screw podcast. Everybody's doing
podcast.
Yeah.
Listen, this is Emergency and Escape Podcast. Kill me.
I need to write that down to use that pun somewhere in the social media.
I was trying to think of a better one, but I just couldn't. I was like, I have to talk about pods. But anyway, good lord. So anyway, these books, the basic, I would guess, this is my guess, we don't know this, but the breakdown, I assume, of work would be that Jude Watson came up with a story, wrote it, basically, and then K.D. Burkett, I would guess, is probably some sort of science educator of some sort.
That's my same opinion.
Yeah.
And then also too, there is no information on who did the covers for these books. However, we do know that the interior illustrations were done by a Frank Boyd Forney. And I also went on Facebook, found every Frank Boyd Forney that I could, and I sent them the same message asking them if they were the illustrators of these books, and I also got no response from any of them. So if I get a response the next week, then we will discuss them. But other than that, yep, that's all we got, guys. This book is an enigma. K.D. Burkett could be another pen name of Jude Watson.
Yeah, maybe Jude Watson was like a science teacher when she was.
She was a teacher, so she may have been.
I would guess probably an English teacher.
I would think so too. She has a very, very firm understanding of that.
But yeah, so anyway, this book is. Do we have any background on like how these books came to be, or no?
No, there's virtually nothing on these books.
Okay, so again, real science, real adventure. Real science, I can confirm.
Yes.
Real adventure.
I don't know about that.
I don't know.
Well, okay, let's get into this book, and I'm just going to give this setup for this book. So we're post-New Hope, we're post-Death Star, okay? C-3PO and R2-D2 are volunteering for a mission, and they must escort these two folks. They are Governor Zissou and his son Stuart.
Okay, listen, stop. Stuart Zissou.
Yeah, his dad's name is Trux, Trux, and then Stuart.
So he's...
I know.
First
it's not even like a weirdly spelled Stuart.
Zissou, I just think of Life Aquatic.
Yeah.
And Stuart, and he's the captain, or isn't he a captain?
He's the governor.
He's the governor, so he's not a captain. I wish he was. I wish Trux, because then I could be Trux is like Bill Murray, and then his son Owen Wilson in that movie.
Yes, yes, it is.
So we can imagine
R.I.P. Steve Zissou's son.
Yeah,
from Life Aquatic.
Oh my god. I need to rewatch that. It's been a while.
Yeah, that movie I feel like is underrated.
Oh, I remember when it came out. It was a lot of people were like, "Oh, big step down," and it is from. I mean, Royal Tenenbaums is like the greatest movie of the last 20 years. So anything's going to be a step down from that, but
yeah,
good movie. Anyway, basically, Stuart Zissou, by the way, what a little shit. He has made me rethink everything I've said about the droid rights issues on this program over the last year. Because, like, and to reiterate, if you're newer to the show and you haven't heard the whole back catalog, generally speaking, I'm not very fond of the current movement within Star Wars fiction to treat droids as an oppressed underclass. Because I think, first of all, that gets into some very dubious... I think that's has to be handled extremely deftly in order for that to not feel kind of hand-wavy about real problems and in the real world. And two, because then it essentially transforms Luke Skywalker into a slave owner if you take these issues too seriously. And I'm just not willing to make that leap. Sorry. I'm just not.
He's our hero.
Yeah.
You can't do that with him.
But this book, C-3PO has like a real awakening in this book.
He does. And you know what? That's one of the best parts about this book is C-3PO, because C-3PO is written really well. And I think this is where Jude comes out.
The characterization is strong.
It's spot on, I feel like. Like, you can read this entire book in 3PO's voice the entire time, and nothing seems off about his voice.
One thing I love about 3PO in this book, and there's not... I'm going to say up front, the story of this book, you want to run through it? Like,
yeah.
You want me to do a quick run-through?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay,
yeah.
This book, they are sent on this mission by Leia. They get attacked by Imperials. Trux, the dad, gets apprehended. The rest of the crew... C-3PO, R2-D2. Do we mention the other droid, 4BX?
No, we haven't. The science droid.
Yeah. Who has a screen on her belly.
Or is her head a screen?
Or her head.
Head's a screen.
She's on the front here. Her head's a screen. Yeah. So anyway, whatever. Those three droids and Stewart all head into an escape pod, and they escape the Imperials. And they are drifting in space. Okay, then... 4BX guides them all through different scientific ways they can change direction. They could do all these things with the escape pod, and eventually they need to land on a planet. It takes about 30 pages for them to land on the planet because we have all these, again, scientific directions of how they can safely do that. They land on the planet.
I will say here, Trux is captured on page 16, and this book is 80 pages long.
Yes.
So
and by the way, I've gotten to like page 75.
I know.
They land on the planet. They discover a message from Leia that was intended for Trux, where she's talking about something where she needs. It's a secret mission that Trux is on, and that. Then she's about to say something about Stewart, but then the transmission cuts out. They try contacting Leia, and they deduce somehow that they think there's a spy on Yavin 4 because that's how the Imperials caught them earlier. And so they contact Leia. They don't have a great connection. Leia's like, "You need to go to the nearest settlement immediately," and so then they head out to the nearest settlement. That's the whole book. And I promise you, we'll talk about some character stuff, like things with 3PO. We'll talk about the scientific things a little bit. But, like, that is the whole story. In pretty good detail. Would you agree?
I agree. I mean, like, all that, now we need to just get into characterization, because that's it. And also, too, when they're in the escape pod, too, it's like, it's one worst case scenario after another. So, like, first off, they're, like, spinning out of control. Yeah. Then they're running out of fuel. Then they're dodging asteroids. Like, it's just, like, one chaos scenario into the next.
So
I also believe 4BX is a lot to blame for this, because 4BX, in my opinion, is kind of slow in processing information.
I agree.
So Stewart's a little shit.
Yeah, Stewart sucks. Stewart basically, like, talks shit on 3PO right away.
Yeah, he does. And
not in like a fun Han Solo way. Like,
no, and also when they're on the Yavin 4 base, they're gotta find Stewart. 3PO was apparently supposed to watch him, and he's playing space poker with the rebel pilots and Han, which is really...
And Leia's like, "Han, you're playing poker with a 12-year-old?"
Yeah, and Han's like, "He beat all of us. Like, he took all of our money." Oh, this is like the start of this book to me reminded me of Jedi Prince in a way, in terms of like how kooky it is.
It's very kooky, but I will say this: Jude is just a competent writer, so it's never hard to read the way Jedi Prince is.
I agree,
but basically, the problem with Stewart is that he's like supposed to be like a rebellious kid, and like. He's like a classic 90s, like, kids movie character, like, the kind of kid, like, the kind of kid that would be played by, like, a poor man's Edward Furlong. And, like, nobody wants that. We want the real deal. We want the real Eddie Furlong. So, like, you know, he reminds me of, like, Worf's kid in Star Trek The Next Generation. Like, ugh, get out of here. I don't want to look at you. No shots. I love Worf. But Alexander, nah. Yeah, so...
Oh, yeah, and then I got something in my notes here. There's some part where, like, 3PO mentions, like, he has, like, a bad feeling, and, like, 4BX also, who's kind of, like, 4BX, like, isn't necessarily, like, mean to him, but, like, she's just like, well, I don't have any programs for a feeling, like, ugh.
Yeah, and, like, yeah, so Stewart basically goes in on 3PO saying he's an outdated droid, and says, she must make you feel pretty useless, Stewart continued. 3PO's head swiveled towards Stewart. Excuse me? She's this fully loaded droid, and what are your program skills? Stewart asked with a shrug. Making a cup of tea? Like, what an asshole. Like,
I agree.
This is making me, like, become, L3 from Solo, frankly. Like,
yeah, because he's treating 3PO like he's not, like, a being. Like, he's treating him he's an object.
So, yeah, if you've been listening to the whole show, you know this is a big step for me. Like,
it really is.
Stewart is alone responsible.
All right, now let's talk about 4BX, because 4BX is, like, all she does is she just spits scientific knowledge. She's a science research droid.
Yes.
And basically she's just like Stewart's tutor. And for Stewart being like a little shit, he's like a good student. Do you get that?
Yeah.
Which kind of makes no sense to me. I have a little bit
There's
here.
little shits that are good at school.
Yeah. So right now right now where I'm at in the book, their escape pod is spinning. It's spinning on an axis. And this is, why don't you fire the thrusters, Stewart asked. R2 already entered the course into the computer. You didn't know, you don't know why, do you? Of course I do, 3PO answered. He wished 4BX would interrupt with an explanation because he actually wasn't sure himself. If I don't do anything, we'll just keep going in a straight line. C-3PO is not being very scientific, 4BX piped up, but he is correct in a crude fashion. The first law of motion states that a body in motion, like this ship, will remain in motion unless a force acts upon it. Say that again, Stewart said, frowning. Why don't I show you what I mean, 4BX asked. Her screen cleared and then filled with a diagram. Unless a force acts upon it, 3PO asked. If only Master Luke were here with us now. None of us can harness the force.
I do like that. That's a funny bit.
That is funny, because 3PO making...
Also, the fact that 3PO wouldn't know, like, the first law of motion... like, come on. Like, what are we talking about here? I know he's like, a protocol droid, but, like... You'd think he'd have basic, like, elementary school science class stuff. If that's a thing in this universe. Obviously, space travel does not work in a realistic fashion in Star Wars. So the fact that they were dealing with this... And basically, so 4BX, like, there's all these diagrams and stuff throughout the book that are supposedly being displayed on her face screen.
Yes.
And, like, that explain what's going on. And so she's just there to explain the science, basically to serve the educational part of this book. But the one thing I do really want to compliment the book on with 3PO's characterization is this a funny thing where, like, because with 4BX specifically, because 4BX is, like, so annoying that 3PO starts behaving like Han toward 4BX, which is very fun.
He gets very hostile towards 4BX,
and like that stuff's fun, and that actually ties in pretty well with like the shithead kid, like and going after him for being like this useless droid. Like it almost makes him more human that he's outdated. Like, you know what I mean? Like. So, if you want to deal with issues of humanity and machinery and stuff in Star Wars, I just don't think those are core themes of Star Wars that matter. Although, well, actually, maybe I mean, there is the battle droids. That's a pretty and versus the clones like that.
Yeah,
that become maybe I'm turning the tide a little bit on this. I just don't want you can't go too far down that road, or else Luke Skywalker's a slave master. That's
right,
the problem.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
It's a double-edged sword.
You have to like ride the line.
Well,
like,
I guess an argument could be is like the battle droids initially aren't free thinking; they're all remote droids. But later on, they are free thinking in terms of making them better soldiers. But even then, you just get hilarious battle droid antics. They're just silly at that point.
So I don't know. Anyway, frankly,
R2 dies halfway through the book.
Oh yeah, like he gets turned off or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
he gets hit real hard and he just shuts off. So R2 is just dead.
Yeah, R2 is like totally Force Awakened in this book.
He's there, but not there.
But yeah, it's listen, I don't know how much more I have to say. The diagrams are kind of funny. Like, there's a couple. There's like one where it's like showing, the centrifugal force diagram.
That's the best one.
Is very funny with the four things spinning. And there's maybe that's the. By the way, there's real experiments you can do in the back. Maybe that's the one we should both do with an umbrella and an action figure.
Oh, an action figure. I agree.
Maybe we could both do that, because I have a big umbrella. I don't know if you have one available.
I can find one, and I have plenty of action figures lying around.
So yeah, that could be a fun. And, and we'll maybe both shoot ourselves doing that, and we can cut that together for some good content sometime in the next week. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any other big insights here?
No, because they just it ends. The whole book is them in the escape pod and them landing on the planet. But the big cliffhanger. Well, every chapter ends in a cliffhanger. Very Galaxy of Fear. The one big cliffhanger is they land on this planet and they don't know what planet they're on. And 3PO notices as it's becoming nightfall that like all the leaves were green, and then all of a sudden all the leaves have turned like orange and are falling off the trees.
All of a sudden all the leaves are brown?
Mm-hmm.
The sky is gray?
All the leaves are brown. The sky is gray. Have you ever watched that Monterey Pop movie? That documentary?
Oh yeah. I've seen that back in high school. I saw that. Yeah, the Hendrix performance.
Yeah, it's not bad. Oh, that iconic.
Yeah, it's
iconic
the greatest.
And the crowd is just like, because they're all sitting, nobody's standing. They're the most stuffy California crowd possible, and they are just like, there are people who have literal disgust on their face when they see what Hendrix does.
If you guys, a lot of you know probably, but Monterey Pop is a festival movie from the 60s that it has some iconic performances. There's also some just whatever performances, but it's good. If you're into that era of music, there's tons of great concert movies. So.
Yeah, there's a great Janis Joplin. She performed Ball and Chain, and Mama Cass is in the crowd. And when she's when the song's finished, they cut to Mama Cass, and you just see her mouth. Oh wow!
Oh, I love Mama Cass. R.I.P. It's a real one. Man, I love music. Gosh, I love music.
All right, back to the book. And then, so there's these experiments. So the one is Centrifugal Force. You're supposed to take an umbrella and an action figure, throw the action figure in the umbrella, and then spin the umbrella around and see that the action figure doesn't fall out of the umbrella. Then the next experiment is about, what is it? Rocket fuel. It's your basics vinegar and baking soda experiment.
Yeah, although they want you to use an empty film canister. Good luck finding one of those.
Where are you going to find one of those?
This is 1999. So,
yeah, it was a different time. Yeah. And then thrusters is supposed to replicate what firing the thrusters on the escape pod would be like. And this involves taking 2 chairs, a piece of string, a plate, like a paper plate or a styrofoam plate, 2 balloons.
That plate better not be styrofoam, man.
I agree. It would be terrible for the environment.
Do you know that? Have I told you about that?
Mm-mm.
This is another music thing. There's an REM concert movie called Tour Film from 1989 or something, the Green Tour. And there's a part where Michael Stipe looks to, like, seemingly the back of the room and sees someone with a cup and says, "That cup better not be styrofoam, man." And they left it in. And it's just, like, one of the funniest things. Like, it's just, like, I mean, I agree, styrofoam very bad, but, like, it's just, I don't know, it's just such a weird piece of stage banter. I think about it all the time.
Anytime you see a styrofoam cup, I am certain. Oh, and after that, kind of like Jedi Prince that has a glossary, it has the science facts used on Earth, and there's this one very funny joke back here. Deep, and then in parentheses, and not so deep impact.
Oh my god, this is a year after Deep Impact. We were still deep in the Deep Impact era. So one other thing to mention, I guess, specifically with the rocket fuel experiment, make sure you have an adult partner to do that.
Yes.
That's one of the materials listed. Empty film canister, 1 teaspoon of vinegar, half teaspoon of baking soda, safety goggles, adult partner, old clothes. That's one of the materials is your adult partner. Very funny.
All right, let's wrap this dang book up.
Yeah, I know. Listen, I think this is shorter than the first segment, which might be a first. Might be a first. So, I'm not sure if it is. Maybe like Myths and Fables.
Maybe.
I'm trying to think of something.
But
maybe.
Myths and Fables even had more to talk about, in my opinion, in this book.
And like okay, well let's
How about but Myths and Fables is all speculation. This is all science fact.
Yeah, that's all myths. It's the classic religion science dichotomy that doesn't actually exist. So, anyway, sorry. This book, I'll say this: I wasn't miserable reading it. It was perfectly readable compared to some of the Jedi Prince. It's maybe as goofy a thing as a premise, but at least I can read it. And like again, the 3PO stuff, I love C-3PO. We haven't had a lot of chances to talk about C-3PO on this show.
No, we have not.
He's one of my favorite characters. So,
and I'll say from my own personal experience too. Like the first time I watched Star Wars, like I was obsessed with C-3PO because I loved robots and I thought he was the coolest robot I'd ever seen in my life.
He is still like kind of underrated as a robot design. Would you agree? Like
I agree.
Like I know that's a weird thing to say, but people don't talk about that design that much. I love C-3PO, and I used to have the action figure case of C-3PO.
Same.
And,
I have a story about that too.
I think you might have told this story.
Okay,
before.
I won't tell it then.
Maybe our listeners can let us know. Did you tell the story? And if so, then we'll tell it. If not, we'll tell it next week.
Yeah.
Not that it matters. We could fatten this episode up a little, I guess. But anyway, so I'll say I really liked C-3PO, and seeing him interact with people without R2 is actually kind of fun. And like seeing him like get annoyed by 4BX and Stewart was entertaining. But the book is a big old nothing, really. Like there's nothing to it. The science stuff is all very basic elementary school stuff. If I had maybe been a year younger when I encountered it, I might have really enjoyed it. But I was just starting to become the little piece of shit that I became. So I was like, nope. But it's. I'm sure they thought Scholastic was like, oh, maybe this could become like a thing that teachers will use to teach like basic science premises, concepts, basic physics ideas. I doubt it was really ever used in that form. But if you are going to do it, it actually, frankly, if you do have a kid who loves like droids and you want to teach them about some basic physics stuff, it's a fine tool.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a good book? I don't know. It's like a 3 out of 10 for me. Like, like I can't get mad at it, but it's a big old nothing, really.
Yeah, I agree. It's there's fun stuff in it, and 3PO is the only fun stuff in it. I feel like I gotta give it more than a 3 because I feel like I gave Join the Resistance 3. And
that was a mistake that we could correct someday.
I agree, but even then, but there's at least more to talk about in the Join the Resistance books. I'll go 3.5 for this book.
Okay.
So, it's just a little. Let's say, so if this book is about physics, the next book subject is biology. So
okay, that's what's it called again? On Planet X? Something?
Yes. Let me pull it out of this bag here. It is Journey Across Planet X.
All right. Well, we'll be covering that one next week. That is, I haven't gotten to that yet. I see it's longer. 30 pages longer. That's exciting. But anyway, still shorter than any of our normal books. So
yes.
There's an easy week for us. A short episode, I'm afraid. But thank you to all our listeners, and hope you guys are staying safe and being sensible. And I hope that you are staying sane. I hope we can help you in a little bit with our weekly episodes on that level. So, anything else? I guess check out our social media. We might have
Facebook,
a video.
Instagram. Yeah. So, something that may show up on the social media and the YouTube.
Yeah.
We should. It's so easy. We're
going to do it. I'm committing. It'll be sometime in the next week. We could probably make it an Instagram video. I mean, it's it'll be so short. It's nothing. Mm-hmm. And I'll cut together a little something of mine, and then you can cut yours together, and we'll just put them back to back.
There we go. I like
nice
that.
And simple.
Yep. All right.
So check that out.
And then buy our T-shirt at TeePublic, the Until the Books Are Due Back T-shirt. Yeah. Facebook, Twitter, email, padawanlibrary@gmail.com, Instagram. Until the books are due back, Tim.
The library is closed. Padawan Library is hosted and produced by Tim May and Levi Paratic. It is edited by Tim May. Our theme song is by The Astral Project. Our artwork is by Freddie Funbuns. Copyright 2020, Tim May and Levi Paratic. All rights reserved.